This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. And the awesome Daniel Bader is here with me. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hey, Miriam. I am good. Thanks for having me back. I was about to say welcome back.
Well, that's because you had a podcast for a while. And
that's it.
You know, those things die hard. I believe it. Listen, it is, what did you call it?
After morning?
After morning. It is after morning. So look, it was Google I/O this week, and I have many thoughts, and I'm sure you do too. And let's be frank, they're not great thoughts. The other thing is, we have a new phone this week. This beautiful Orient Blue Moto Razr Ultra 2026, which I'm showing on video right now for those of you on Patreon who support the video version. So, you know, I have some thoughts. You probably have read some reviews. I don't know if you have the device. I don't know if you played with the Fold, which we talked about on last week's show, which is very impressive and really great. So this is a little less exciting, unfortunately. But, you know, I don't know. Do you have the phone?
Not this year's. I have the 2025 Ultra, which is like, what, 98 point? It's like the chimpanzee to our human.
So how do you feel about that? Because this is the weird thing about it. There's so few differences between these two phones.
Yeah. So I have had a troubled relationship with foldables over the years. I like them in theory, and then when I use them, I never really gel with them. I end up going back. But the Razr Ultra is that phone that I get out of the drawer like every month, load it up, update it if there's an update, and then play around with it for a few hours. And I'm like, I think I can make this my daily driver. Like, I'm almost there. Right. So of all of the foldables that I own, and that includes like the book style foldables, I have all of them. And the Razr is really the one that I come back to. I think it's just objectively the nicest. It's the software is the best. And I love it. So I'm not surprised that everybody who's reviewed it so far has said it's a great phone, but for the $200 price increase over last year, basically.
I think the challenge is exactly what you said. Like, I have no issues with the minor updates we're going to get into. I even have no issues that they didn't update the processor per se. I just feel like, here's the thing. Last week when I was compiling my Razr Fold episode, and for those of you who don't know, you should go listen to last week's show. It's pretty in-depth review of the Razr Fold, which also reviewed for hothardware.com. You'll find my written review there. I, was looking at Amazon for a referral link for something related to Moto. They still didn't have those new phones on Amazon. And I found a referral link for the Ultra 2025. And guess how much they wanted for it? $699 US. So
what?
A week ago,
like a new
correct,
version?
Brand new. So a week ago, you could go on Amazon.com US and buy basically the phone that I'm holding in my hand right now in a different color with a slight change in camera and, battery, and for less than half the price.
That is bananas.
And so the conversation really changes. And right now it's $799. So anyway, I'm going to show it. Again, I said video. If you want a video version of this podcast, patreon.com/TNKGRL. You get it every week for $5 a month, and you get it a day in advance. So it's beautiful, right? It's exactly the same form factor as last year. Same controls, that useless AI key here that you can't reprogram.
Still
fingerprint, all of that, the hinge. And then when you get the cover display, it's the same. There's my music player. As you can see, I was listening to the Crusaders, and I got the little...
you've always had really good taste in music. I think I've known that for a long time, but I just want to say it out loud to everybody listening.
Thank you.
I appreciate your music taste.
I come from a musical family, so I grew up on jazz and classical and all kinds of really cool prog rock in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So, same display inside, as you can see here, same on the outside. Yeah. So this is a beautiful, the cases are identical. If you have clicks, Michael Fisher and Kevin's awesome case with a keyboard thing, they work. So that's the one thing that is nice is all the accessories of the last year's 25 Razr Ultra are going to work. And the processor is the same, but supposedly, I heard this after I wrote my hands-on story 2-3 weeks ago in LA with Moto. They tweaked it a bit, the Razr's processor. It's a Snapdragon 8 Elite, of course, but apparently there's some optimizations on thermals and I think it's mostly just firmware, like software-based stuff. It might have slightly bigger heat dissipation capacity inside the actual guts of the phone.
Is it still the 7 GPU or the 7 core version of the chip?
That's a good question. As far as I know, it's a proper 8 Elite.
Because last year's was the 7 core foldable version.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was that the only, because last year the Oppo Find N5 also had the diminished version.
Yeah, I think most of the foldables released last year did, but I don't know. I haven't really heard about a similar SKU for the 2026 upgrades. So I don't know.
I don't know either. So my point is that I'm not too upset about that. I was really annoyed with the Razr Fold not having 8 Elite Gen 5. Even though the 8 Gen 5 was perfectly fine in that phone, I felt like as a flagship, it should have the best, To be fair, though, thermally, it was the right decision to have the 8 Gen 5 in the Fold because it doesn't throttle nearly as much as any other book-style folding phone with an 8 Elite Gen 5. But this, it is okay. The thing that changed is they have this low-fic camera sensor, which is improves dynamic range. And if you have a lot of background light, supposed to improve things at night, that kind of halo effect that you get. This is a technology that's been around a while now, and it's used mostly in automotive and in a security kind of environments where you can get like a sunshine blinding the camera or something. I've briefly tested the camera in the last few days. I have not noticed any difference in performance in low light or otherwise. If anything, it's just software differences at this point. Yeah. And then the battery is slightly bigger, 5,000 milliamp hour now, which is, I want to remind, this is pretty impressive. Silicon carbon like last year, but I think last year was 4,700 or something, or 48, and it's gone up to 5,000. And this is the same battery capacity that we have in a Galaxy S26 Ultra, just for reference. So battery life's been great. And not surprisingly, I mean, on a phone like this, it should last all day, no problem at all. And especially if you use the outer display a lot, right? So you were saying, obviously I agree with you. This is the best flip still, right? But you can buy the old one for $799. So why buy this one? That battery capacity difference and camera difference makes very little in practice,
Yeah, I think Motorola is stuck with the same problem every OEM is stuck with right now, which is costs have gone up exponentially. You can't really sell anything at the same price or cheaper than you could last year. Availability of parts is also diminished. And frankly, the cost benefit analysis of adding, an 8 Gen 5 or an 8 Elite Gen 5 versus last year's 8 Elite was probably fairly obvious to them when they were putting together the BOM. I think what they're going for here is this is a lifestyle product. It's got new backs, it's got new colors, it's got new blah, blah, blah. Let's sell it to the folks that want it new, and they'll wait if they don't need it right now. And it'll be $800 or $700 a year from now when they come up with a 20. It's the same thing as a car. I mean, the car cycles.
But also Moto does discount really quickly. So
super quickly, yeah.
Alcantara, look at this. Of course, it does pick up fuzz, but it's soft.
But you remember the 2024 and 2025 Razrs, on Prime Day or Black Friday, you could find those for $400.
But that's my point, right? My point is right now, if you want this phone, get the last year's and then or wait 6 months or 3 months. and you'll get it for hopefully less than $1,000. $999. It settled at $999, the 25 Razr Ultra, for quite a while. And by the way, a lot of what we're going to talk about here applies to the other two Razrs, the Razr Plus and the Razr Regular. They all went up in price. They all got slight camera bumps because they're all silicon carbon, and they're slightly better silicon carbon than last year. And some slight processor bumps for the base model. The middle child, the Plus, got the stupid telephoto replaced with an ultra wide. We went through all this 2-3 weeks ago on the show when the phones were announced, but there's nothing wrong with this phone. The thing that I have to say, coming from the Fold, after like fawning over the Fold for, a week of using it nonstop for my review, and then going to this, is, whoa, we're back into Motorola camera land here. Like it's not, that low fix sensor, I'm sure, makes a small difference, but it's really, don't expect the kind of camera performance that we saw on the Razr Fold and my pictures on my review. Like it's the same as the last year's Ultra. It's perfectly fine, but we're not, in my opinion, not in flagship territory. We're not even at the level of an iPhone 17. Okay. And that's just the way it is, especially zooming. Zooming is, wow. Problematic.
The sensor is tiny. I mean, it's not a great sensor, and that's what you're going to experience when you zoom in on anything with a sensor that size. I will say, I like the processing that Motorola puts its photos through, so that it's better than the sum of its parts. And I think just the experience of shooting photos on a Razr has always been really good. Whether the output has matched it, the fact that they've maintained the flippy flip since 2013, since the first Moto X, you can hold the phone in cool ways when you're taking photos. Like, I enjoy that process. It makes me feel more creative than just holding up a regular phone.
I agree. I think it's very solid in that experience level. And the phone software is great. Look, this is a great phone if you want a flip phone. As you said, it's the best flip phone. And Samsung doesn't come close. The Oppo did a good job, but this was 3 years ago now, the Oppo Find N3 Flip or whatever. Like, we're way past that. And Oppo, in my opinion, still makes the best book style folding phone, the Find N6, which I have. I think the Razr Fold gives it a solid run for its money. I think the Z Fold 7 is not in the same league. It's a great phone unless you want battery life and camera, which I think is two things everybody wants. Yeah. If you're a Samsung person and you're in the ecosystem, the Z Fold 7 makes sense. There's a Z Fold 8 coming. I don't expect the cameras to improve much on the Z Fold 8. We're not going to get a telephoto. I don't think that's any good compared to these Chinese phones, including the Razr Fold. Battery, I don't think we're going to get silicon carbon just yet. I think if we start seeing silicon carbon from Samsung, it'll be with the S27 series next year. So my hopes for the Z Fold 8 are not great. I mean, it's going to be solid. Like, the Z Fold 7 is solid if you don't care about battery and cameras. Like, I hate to say this, but like, for me, those two things are not negotiable. When you're used to getting like 2 days easily of constant use on your, book style folding phone, going back to 1 day is just not an option. And then the cameras, for me, there's nothing wrong with the main sensor on the Z Fold 7. It's just a telephoto. And of course, the ultra wide is kind of mad too. But it's once you get a telephoto of the caliber of a Chinese phone, you want a proper flagship experience in your hand. If at that price point, there should be no compromise. And that's kind of where I think Samsung's not at. And I think it's the same with their flip phone. Samsung's just, I don't know. I don't think they understand the cover screen and what can be done with it.
Yeah.
Moto gives you the flexibility of turning it into a smartwatch or turning it into a full-on Android experience. And you can choose where you want to go. Choose your own adventure. And I love that. And, they're the only ones. And you can get that on the base Razr. So if you don't even want to spend that kind of money, buy a base Razr from last year for like, I don't know, $399 probably on sale right now, and you get that. And yeah. So anyway,
it's cheaper than a Trump phone.
Oh, we're going to mention this only because this is a mobile show and we have to mention it later in the show. But I just want to kind of follow up on what we were talking about this also reflects a bigger thing that's going on. You talked about it, supply chain issue, pricing issues, RAM prices. I'm seeing a lot of parallels between this phone and the Google Pixel 10a, right?
Yeah.
And like we're in this malaise right now with, I think that a lot of phones this year in 26 are going to be kind of meh because they're just going to be slight repeat. And that's why I think the Z Fold 7, Z Fold 8, like sure, there'll be a Z Fold 8 wide, right? And the Z Flip 8, I don't think it's going to be much of an improvement of the Z Flip 7. So, gird your loins, folks, just go with the flow. It's going to be a lot of buying last year's phone if you're buying a new phone this year. And it's fine because those phones are great. Like we were on a kind of rocketing streak for a while there. And I think we're going to have to kind of like take a pause until things stabilize a little bit. And it's unfortunate because the Chinese aren't stopping, right?
No, but even those phones are still hitting plateaus in some ways, right?
You can tell they have supply chain issues, the Chinese. Like you can tell it's starting to constrain a little bit, but not affecting the delivery of the spec sheet yet.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, like, can Oppo and Xiaomi and Honor, like, can they one up the phones that they released this year? Because those were in production 18 months, 2 years ago. Now they're hitting the mark where if they really want to innovate, that BOM is going to be through the roof, right? We're talking RAM prices that are like 1,600% what they were a year ago. And it's just not feasible for them to, even if they have the other chips available to them, in order to hit a certain price point, it's just not feasible of them to like get Qualcomm's latest. I mean, they have to if they're releasing a flagship, but then where else are they going to cut? And maybe in areas that we don't
That's
think.
The thing we're seeing. Do they have to? Right? Google Pixel 10a, same chip as last year. This phone, same chip as last year. They might not have to. They need the RAM. The RAM is non-negotiable. We can reduce it a little bit, but we can't go lower than 8 gigs, right? Universally, pretty much. And on flagships, probably can't go lower than 12. So yeah, I don't know. Let's switch gears and talk about I/O. But quickly before that, I just want to let folks know we're seeing leaks of a Moto Edge 2026, which means that we might be getting one of those Moto Edge 70 series phones that are already out in the rest of the world, coming to North America with some modifications for this market. So stay tuned. If it does happen, I'll get a device. I'll talk about it on the show. The Edges have always been solid, decent bang for buck mid-rangers. The Edge Pluses have always been decent flagships. Well, not always, but some of them were. But we haven't seen an Edge Plus in forever, so I don't think that's happening. And the Signature that's sold abroad would be the Edge Plus if it was sold in the US, and I don't think that's going to happen because you can really only focus on one line of flagships in North America for a company like Moto, and that's the Fold and the Flip, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I/O, I don't know.
I want to hear your thoughts because you said you didn't have many good thoughts about it. So what are they?
So I didn't go because I was invited and I was going to go, but then Mercedes invited me to this thing in LA. So I watched the recap video The Verge put together, and all I could think of is we are living a Black Mirror episode. That's my kind of doomy gut feeling, and I don't feel good that I felt that way. I think some of the things that they said, like that singularity statement at the very end, like it's like, do these people live in the same reality that I live in? Like, look, I'm not against AI. AI is a tool. It does great things. It's going to exist. We can't stop it. Technology, I'm all for technology. I just feel that these companies, and this is not just Google, okay? I'm not singling out Google. I think there are worse players in this field. I think Facebook Meta is way worse. I think, OpenAI is way worse, But I feel like these companies don't seem to have any kind of concept of having a responsibility towards people and the environment whatsoever. And these lovely people up on stage just kind of selling this without, like, it felt so detached from reality to me. Like, I just I love the tech, but I hate the angle. Like I hate the way we're approaching it right now. And all the slop that they generated on screen that just really, actually, the demos to me weren't that impressive. And I also feel that their product strategy, and this is specific to Google particularly, is so scattered that I don't understand. If I, as a tech person, does not understand all the different products and what they do and how they mesh together. And I'm an ex-developer, so this is a developer conference. Some of it is developer-centric.
Yeah, well,
it just put me off. Like, the only things that I think have been very exciting lately from Google have been Google Books, although the name is not that good, but I am interested in seeing what's going to come out of that. And of course, Fitbit Air, which I have a review unit sitting in San Francisco I need to pick up. And yeah, that's basically it for me. This I/O stuff just turned me off and made me shake my head. And maybe I should stop yelling at clouds because I'm an old lady,
I mean, it's interesting. I've been going through the ebbs and flows of my relationship with AI a lot this week because I've been using it for specific things recently in very purposeful ways that I haven't in the past. So I am vibe coding a web app for my job that I would never have been able to build on my own. I don't know how to code. And it's turned out great. And I'm iterating on it by talking to Claude Code, and it's doing the thing. I ask it to fix this or add this or change this, and it works. And I think it's very powerful for that. And I was doing a TV interview this morning about a topic that when they asked me to do it, I wasn't super up to date with. It was about like some Canadian regulatory thing, and I haven't really been following it. So what did I do? I read up about it, but I made like a summary through Gemini so that once I learned about it, I could get a bit more kind of talk point ready for the interview. And that was great, right? I used it for purposeful things and it worked really well for those things. But I agree with you that the keynote it felt like they threw spaghetti at the wall, but the spaghetti was basically Gemini. And that was the whole 2-hour keynote. And the contrast was I went back to 2016's keynote, which I remember as being really interesting. First of all, it was still at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. They also had a very healthy mix of developer-focused announcements, hardware announcements, and straight-up software announcements, right? This was the year of Daydream. It was the year of Allo and Duo. It was the year of the Aura modular phone, right? Yep. Android 7 was announced that year, which was a big change in terms of design, right? Like all of these major announcements happened at I/O that impacted developers. And frankly, the way that I see I/O today is it's an infomercial. It sounded to me like the equivalent of what Apple does at its keynotes every year now, but for software. And it was 2 hours of them selling not developers or
to
clients,
investors,
but investors on why their AI solutions are the better option over the competitors. And frankly, I don't like that.
But it's been like that. Like the last 2 or 3 years, I've felt that way. This year's really gelled it for me. Like this year was it. But I was in denial the previous 2 years. But I look back now at these keynotes because I went last year and I skipped the year before. And I'm like, so much AI. It's like, what is wrong? It's the AI show. It's the Gemini show. And look, I love Gemini. Of all the AIs, that's the one I use. I really think it's solid. As you said, summarization, I love that feature. I use it so much. And as you said, like vibe, as an ex-developer, I'm totally pro vibe coding. Democratizing access to software development, 100%. My biggest concern with vibe coding is that you're not really learning to code. It doesn't put you in that mindset And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you do it enough, you start learning, and maybe if you do enough, you start debugging alongside Claude. I think Anthropic in general, I think their tech and their stuff is pretty great too, especially on the coding side. But I feel like what we got was slop upon slop upon slop for 2 hours, and I didn't need that. And it really irked me when the audience just applauded and didn't boo. There's a point where you got to draw the line as a journalist. And I know that there weren't just influencers there and developers there, right? I went to an event recently where it got pretty political. Like they had some politicians come and talk to us from the MAGA land, and
oh, interesting.
We had journalists booed them because we're like, we're not going to hold back, because you know what?
That's crazy.
It's our responsibility to call them on their, And so I was surprised that people just went along with it. Like, I think the kids these days are okay. All these kids that are booing during graduation ceremonies when the person on stage is, talking about AI in a positive light. Now, again, I'm not against AI. I think it's a tool and it has very good uses. It's just, I think we need to let these companies know we're not okay. It's not okay what's going on right now. It's not the technology that's not okay. It's the way it's being pushed upon us, and the fact that there's no guardrails, that there's no checks and balances, just like our government in the US, So anyway.
I think what's interesting about an event like I.O. is that, especially coming out of the Altman versus Musk trial, Google considers itself to be the adults in the room, right? That OpenAI and Grok or XAI and Anthropic, they're all fighting for the sort of startup mindset of AI.
Correct.
Google has products. It has things that it can give you on your phone, on the web. It can integrate into existing services like search and workspace and whatever. It's got agents that will actually buy things for you rather than just like pretend that they know what they're going to be used for, right? All of these things Google thinks is an advantage. But I agree with you, because I don't think most people think of them as an advantage. I think the fact that Google completely reshaping its company around AI and making its core product, Google Search, into what it amounts to a Gemini prompt is not a good experience for most people.
I know. And I did see some glimpses of cool stuff in there. I love the idea of having a search running like we have already today for a product, but it being an agent and being much more proactive about it than a regular web search would be, like running in the background. But then I asked to myself, like, do I really need that? Then I asked myself, how much energy is that using in data centers? And does it really make my life that much better? Right. And this is like, I'm not sure what the benefits are in the end, right? Like, I think some things like vibe coding, yeah, I see the benefits. Summarization, I see the benefits. Even having Gemini rewrite a complaint letter to an airline or something in a way that, is not as flippant as I would write it. Probably a good thing, right? These things. And it's all the Gen AI stuff is what also concerns me. Like they showed all this Gen AI stuff, music, video. And remember, guys, they stole all the content from creators, and none of these creators are getting money for this content. That's what bothers me. With all of the AI companies, not just Google, but Google has such a grip on our lives. They know so much about us. I've put so much of my life into Google's bin, and I'm not upset about it. I got lots of benefits out of it. I knew the exchange. I understood the contract, but I still feel that my content that I create, every time I open Google Docs and I start writing a review, who knows what happens to my stuff? At this point, I have no control, no idea, and it's probably mining that, my writing style or whatever, for Gen AI to create fake reviews on Amazon. And you're going to say everything's a remix. Yes. And I'm okay with that concept. I'm not like a copyright preacher. I'm not a big fan of copyright. I think copyright's very broken. I think IP is very broken. I think that we need some flexibility there. But in the same way as YouTube gives me a bit of money every time somebody watches my videos, I should be getting money every time somebody hits generate if my content was used for it. And right now, it's not happening, even though you're going to say, I got money from YouTube AdSense for my videos. I mean, it's just very broken.
Well, Google trained its video models on all of the UGC that's been uploaded to YouTube that it owns. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
There's a difference, right? You made the decision to upload to YouTube, which is owned by Google. OpenAI trained its models for Sora on stolen
it's even
video
worse.
content, right? Yeah. So it's like the devil you know or the devil you don't. And that's, I think, what Google is going for here. It's like, you can trust us because we've only misled you in small ways. We've never abused your personal data. We've just used it to sell more ads, right? It's like, it's not a big deal. It's not like we've ever been breached and your social security number has been stolen. It's just that you agreed to these terms and conditions, and they happen to allow us to train our models on all of your personal information. But it's anonymized. Don't worry. It's all good. And we never read your Gmails, but we may like scan your Gmails if we want to, do something later on. Like it's all very wishy-washy.
And
I
you know
think
why
Google
that
wants
is?
to get away.
Because we were never able to put guardrails in place from a regulatory perspective. Look, I am all for, free market economy, but regulation is a thing. It matters. The fact that we have USB-C on iPhones right now is a good thing. It matters. Okay. And that was created by regulation. So
do you think Apple now has come around to the idea that USB-C is just a better option?
Yes. But I think that Lightning is a superior interface other than data speed. And that's because it's really old. But I'm, of course, way more pro USB-C because I like standards. Again, sometimes it's the same with regulation. Regulation will cause some friction. Standardization causes some friction. We don't necessarily get the best tech out of those things because, as I said, I think USB-C could be better. It could be more like Lightning. But the alternative is fragmentation and chaos, which is what we're seeing with AI right now. And what we saw when every single phone had a proprietary charging port 20 years ago.
I mean, what about MCP being the connector between all of these AI platforms, right? The thing that I often think about is like Google has a moat in that you already use its services. You already use search, you already use Docs and other workspace apps. You already use Gmail. But OpenAI and Anthropic and Perplexity or whatever, all the other ones that have foundation models, like where's their moat? Not like ultra hardcore early adopters, but regular people. Do they really care about the benchmarking advantages of one model over another? No.
No, it's nerds and developers. And I would argue that the people who use OpenAI, who are just everyday people, are basically using it as a companion at this point, as an agent and a companion. But it doesn't have enough data to really be useful to them. It's very superficial, the relationship they have. I think if you're a Google user for a long time, like we are, Gemini is a much more useful agent and tool because it has so much more information about you available. In that sense, that moat is, in a way, actually protection for the individuals using it. If you're using OpenAI, OpenAI doesn't have as much data as Google does, at least for us. So perhaps that's a good thing. I know that if I were to kind of want to compartmentalize something, it's really nice to be able to use Anthropic or, to be able to use OpenAI because I know that they don't know much about me. So it's going to be relatively neutral. Whatever I feed it is what it's going to use. And the general knowledge that it stole, right? Mm-hmm. Let's face it. So, but with Google, and that's why I use Gemini, because I know Google has context. It knows my stuff. I can say, hey, find that email where XYZ happened, and it will find it. It might need a bit of prompting to do that. But so I think the moat is both or lack, or whatever you want to call it. The fact that, Google has already got access to people's data private data, personal data, more so than the others, is both a pro and a con for both Google and for the competition, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But you're right now, like I really do not understand who is using these LLMs other than developers, in terms of benchmarking and comparing and unless you're like a hardcore AI nerd, like who really cares about machine learning and data science, I do not understand. Like the average person does not deal with that. So
I agree. I just think that a lot of people use ChatGPT for maybe inane or like
yes,
time wasting purposes, or to
as a
as a
companion,
replacement for Google search.
yes,
And that is why Google is changing its entire company around it, because it knows that if it doesn't do anything, then they're going to go somewhere else.
yeah. No, I agree. It's kind of actually interesting because I think that there's a meta discussion to be had. Like, I don't really want to drill into the details of Google. I'll put a link in the show notes about all the announcements that were made there. 9 to 5 Google did a very good job at recapping it. That's their thing. But it's more of a meta conversation around, I think that Google I/O, its keynote, this whole AI stuff that's going on right now, shows a parallel to the general malaise that we're experiencing in the world right now, geopolitics and with happening in the US, which is affecting us here in Canada and affecting other countries as well, right? Because the US is such a strong force in the world, economically, militarily, etc. I think this is what we need to talk about, not now in this podcast, but I think as a general thing, as tech journalists, is that this is a mirror of the problems we're seeing in other areas, socioeconomic problems that we're seeing, societal problems that we're seeing, and it's not good. And it doesn't mean you have to stop using these tools. By all means, use them if they're useful to you, but be mindful that there's an environmental and a people impact. That every time you fire up, Gemini, and you do a summary of something, you're using some data center cycles. You're probably killing some salmon somewhere in some, data center. I'm joking. But look, also be aware that, it's going to come back and bite all of us to some extent. Some of us are going to lose our jobs because AI can do things better and faster. And, it's just another industrial evolution in many ways. It's just progress. But does progress have to be bad like this? Or can progress be slightly more controlled and managed so that the impact is softened on everyone? I'm not saying we're not going to go into, technology's not going to stop. I'm not saying that's going to, I just feel like we should have a responsibility as humans, and the tech companies in particular, to kind of like, hey, let's do this in a smart way. But it's not going to happen because right now it's all driven, as you saw, it's an infomercial. It's all driven by profit, and profit is driven by investors. Investors just are greedy and just want more and more and more and more resources, more money, who are less people, apparently. Yeah. So there you go. There's my gloomy view on Google I/O for y'all.
I don't think it's that gloomy. I think it's pretty apropos of like the wider sentiment that people are giving around AI. And what I find so frustrating is most of these press conferences are being performed in San Francisco or nearby, right? And if you had an audience in New York or wherever, it would be a completely different story.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe somebody would actually boo.
I don't think they'd attend.
Man.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like Google I/O is for developers, and I just don't think developers got their money's worth this year.
No, I agree. That's true too. Although I think if you talk to most of them, they probably felt great about it because maybe they're so into the AI stuff that, they're like, it's just the keynote. Then there's all the sessions and all the workshops and all the stuff. And I didn't really care about the keynote. I just like to sit and applaud, and that's fair. I mean, as an ex-developer who used to go to developer conference 20 years ago, I often sat in keynotes that were boring AF or not my vibe, and then really enjoyed the rest of the conference a lot, so who knows? There's also that, right?
That's fair. I mean, there were the glasses. We didn't talk about the glasses at all.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think that's the glasses was, so Samsung finally showed their partnership with, who is it again?
Warby Parker
Warby?
and Gentle
Yeah.
Monster.
And I think it's cool. I like the style they showed. I think it's funny not looking like a pair of Ray-Bans, which, is nice.
I guess they
thoughts?
do, though. Like, how many designs can, you make
Oh,
square
but like
ones and you make
those kind
round
of
ones.
the kind of like long oval shaped ones that she was wearing on stage. I think those are cool. Like they're slightly different.
Yeah, they're definitely different. I mean, very few people can get away with that design.
True. No, I think, look, this is one of the things out of Google I/O that came out. But I like to think of it as a peripheral thing because, we all knew it was coming. And, there's also X-Real Aura or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm gung-ho on this concept of having a pair of glasses with cameras and microphones and speakers and no display. And if you can wear them for the whole day and they can be your assistant in your ear, I think that's something that this is an area of AI that I'd like to explore more. I know it's going to come with a whole bunch of hurdles and caveats and issues, but I think I like the idea that I can just query an assistant without, like, with earbuds, it's okay, but there's no visual context. Adding visual context can really help. And then the whole thing about accessibility, how it's going to really improve the ability for people with disabilities to navigate the world. That's got me really excited because these AI agents are going to help.
I called a company the other day and I got through to an agent and I wanted to test to see how brittle it was. And I could not break it. It was the first time I'd ever experienced a situation where it was very resilient. It always kind of went back. It never like allowed me to, I asked it like, who's powering your agent technology? Like what company do you work with? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, this is, if you want to find out about how to remove raccoons from your, whatever, like this is the cost. And I found it interesting that we're at a point now where I think the experience, because I've called this company before and it's always some apathetic CSR who just wants to get off the phone as soon as possible. And I found that this was actually a slightly better experience than talking to a human, if only because it wasn't miserable, No,
but I think there's some validity to that. Like, again, I am not against the technology. It's just the way it's implemented. And in this case, clearly it was implemented in a way that benefited you and made you feel better about it. So kudos.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right. Yeah. So stay tuned about the glasses stuff. I mean, as soon as I can, me, it's like, I want to try it. I want to play with the hardware. I want to really experience it, not just do a demo. I'm waiting for this stuff to become a thing in the same way as I have a pair of, Meta's smart glasses, the regular, microphone, camera, speaker thing. And I think it's good. It's just, I don't want to have anything that I do inside of Meta. So, I don't use them really. But maybe with Gemini, I'll be into it because I've already sold my soul, right, Daniel?
We're already there.
Find out. So I did a thing in LA that I said I didn't go to I/O. Here's the thing. I just want to talk about EVs really for a second. I'm about to write a story about how EVs are at a bit of a turning point. And it's not the thing you think. It's not about range or charging networks. That's been solved. It's not about the state of EVs in America because of our regime and all the politics and the fact that we're trying to be protectionist in the US and not letting the Chinese EVs in. It's not about that. All that is very important and interesting. It's about the fact that EVs are a turning point because I think we're kind of like the iPhone 4 stage of EVs. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
where it's starting to become a thing. And for the average person. And more importantly, we're starting to make EVs fun and an emotional level. Like EVs, look, if you're like me and you're a car enthusiast, I'm very kind of diametric in my approach to cars. I either want a very, very old school manual transmission gas car, or I want like a really cool EV. And if I want an EV, it's just purely about the torque, the acceleration, that insane speed, and I want no noise, and I just want, feel that rush. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I feel that we can now start mixing the two a little bit. And I've experienced that the first time with the Ioniq 5N, which is the performance version of the Ioniq 5. And it has a mode where you can use the paddle shifters that are on the steering wheel. Instead of to adjust the level of regen up and down for braking, you can basically shift fake gears. And it has a soundtrack to go along with it. And it's extremely realistic. I mean, the soundtrack isn't, but the actual way the gear shifting happens is, again, there's no gears to shift, guys. It's all software, right? So understand that what happens here is it's emulating like a 4-cylinder engine. It's turbocharged in its behavior. So there's turbo lag. You can hit the red line. If you're in the wrong gear, you bog down. You don't have a lot of torque. You might stall. All that stuff is implemented in software, and it makes the car more interactive, more like video gamey in a way. And then you can use the paddle shift to shift gears. And then the soundtrack is very synthetic, very sci-fi, but it does, give you that visceral feel of like knowing what your quote unquote engine is doing. And more importantly, it has crackle pops, when we downshift and stuff. It's fun. And just adds a level of fun. You're not going to drive like this every day, but every time I have one of those cars to review, I do spend at least part of my time, enjoying that. And of course, the sound comes out on the outside as well if you want to turn that on. So it's kind of fun. So that's the experience I've had so far. Is it a gimmick? Yes, but it's a software gimmick. It costs very little to do. So why not have it? So now, Mercedes decided, hey, we have this AMG division, which is the M division for BMW, right? Which is like the performance division. And, make this car called the GT. The GT is like their fastest, it comes in 2 doors and 4 doors. It's kind of like their flagship car, sports car. And, think Porsche 911 competitor, right? Or Porsche Panamera if you're looking at 4-door. And they decide to make an electric one, and they decide to launch it in LA. And of course, it's an electric car. So, almost 1,200 horsepower, 0-60 in 2 seconds, tri-motor. They're using actual flux motors, which are the pancake flat motors that take less space, are lighter, are more dense, all developed in-house. They're using a new battery tech, all developed in-house with oil cooling. They've gone all out. This is like Mercedes nerdiness at its best. And remember, Mercedes invented the car, and the reason they still exist as a company today is because they've been building their entire company on the back of innovation. So even though they're not the first and the best at EVs, they've definitely been following. And the last couple of regular EVs they've made, like the CLA and the upcoming GLC electric, are extremely competitive compared to the Chinese or Tesla. So software still needs a bit of work, but it's getting better, and definitely at a state now where I don't feel like it's annoying. So that's good too. So anyway, they launched this car, and here's the big news is they emulated a V8 experience, like with the paddle shifters again, like their regular V8 GT cars, which is a tall order because it's not like the Ioniq where you can make it a video game. This has to be real. This has to feel and sound like a proper Mercedes GT so that the customers who like a V8 but now want to go electric can feel that they're getting their money's worth. And they did it. They did it. They even have vibration. The seats make you feel, when you're sitting there, you feel like the engine's vibrating and matching the RPM, basically like have like subwoofers in the seats or whatever. And then the headlights are speakers. They project the sound so that when you're driving and you turn on the outside sound, people are hearing a V8 go by, wow. It's amazing because once you forget that it's an EV and you start hearing it and feeling it, it takes you to this new emotional state where you're like, I'm really having a fun time. Who cares if it's gas or electric right now? This is great, And this is why I think it's exciting, because I think it's like if a company like Mercedes is like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this right, I think others are going to follow. Porsche has been talking about emulating the Ioniq 5 shifting stuff for their EVs as well. And, who knows who else is going to follow. I think adding more fun to the EV experience is great. So I'm very excited about what I saw there. And of course, it's going to trickle down, right? Because it's software. So
I know nothing about this other than it sounds insanely expensive. It sounds like we're sort of at the point now where we're backporting. Like that idea of like software when you completely overhaul an app or a piece of software by starting the code base from scratch.
It's skeuomorphism. That's what I'm telling you. It's iPhone 4. We're back.
Yeah.
It's skeuomorphism in the car world. I love it.
It's funny.
I have been saying since the beginning of EVs that we're following the same cycles as smartphones in a delayed way. And it's totally happening. Look at it. We had the iPhone moment. That's the Model 3, right? And now we have like the Androids are out there, right? Like the Ioniq 5s and you know what I'm saying? And then,
right.
Here's the iPhone 4 moment where like skeuomorphism, the new OS, everything anyway, it's happening and it's cool. But I see your point. Is it necessary? No. And it's expensive, but here's the thing. The sound system that's being used for this vibration and stuff, they already have this in the car, and the speaker in the headlights. Well, in a car that's going to be $100 something plus dollars, you can add speakers to the headlights. There's already speakers on the outside of every EV because from a regulatory point of view, they all have to make that angel sound when they're driving around at lower speeds. Whether you put the speaker in the front or the back doesn't matter at this point. So the cost is, I think, relatively minor. It's already more amortized because of the crazy Burmester sound system that they have in there anyway. But this will trickle down, and it's already trickled. Like the Ioniq 5N is not super expensive, and Hyundai, as I mentioned in last week's show, is actually thinking of bringing that as a software experience to all their EVs, because maybe as a purchasable option, like a purchasable one-time software update. Who knows? But the point is, it's adding excitement and fun and an emotional connection. Eventually, I think it'll be vestigial. We won't care anymore. We'll be like, yeah, well, it's an EV. Why do we need sound? Like we're used to it now, kind of thing. And then maybe some people will be like, I need the sound. I need that experience. Also, I read a story, I can't remember where, but it was the fact that apparently one of the reasons people get more car sick in EVs is not so much because of one pedal and regen and all that. It's because there's no sound and vibration that the body can relate to happening at the same time. They're not used to it, and their body feels like there's a disconnect. So, it reacts by getting them seasick or car sick. And I think that maybe that'll help. Maybe, I'm not saying that paddle shifting. I'm just saying like having a sound and maybe some vibration that comes through the speaker system that matches what the car is doing for the passengers, not necessarily hearable outside, might help with motion sickness, especially on ride shares and stuff, or on future robo-taxis. Who knows,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you get car sick in EVs?
Very rarely. I very rarely get car sick in general. And if I'm driving, I really only get car sick when I push it too hard on track or something, or in the twisties myself, and then I slow down. But if it's when I do co-drives, because when you do a press drive, you're paired with another journalist, and so sometimes I'm paired with other journalists, and they're a little too aggressive, and then I do start feeling. But we talk to each other. I say, "Hey, can you slow down? I'm starting to feel a little nauseous." And generally, we all respect each other's wishes on that, because obviously you don't want somebody throwing up in the car or whatever. But that's, trust me, yes. I mean, these cars are so high performance, and it's not just, to be fair, not just electric cars, that you can easily get car sick. But by default, for normal driving, it's really hard for me to get car sick in the back of a car, unless I'm constantly looking at my phone. So,
which you shouldn't be doing.
No. Although there's an app for that.
Never.
On iPhone, apparently, there's an app that displays a background that scrolls in the direction of where the car, like it uses the motion sensor. And so it gives you directional cues, and apparently it relieves some car sickness. Guys, just get off your phone for a little while and look around and, travel through your city or the city that you're visiting and have a look at what's out there through the windows of the car while it drives you from the airport to your hotel or whatever it might be. Perhaps it'll be more fun than your phone.
Maybe.
Depends. Anyway, let's jump on to a few little more newsy items that we can rapid fire through. Sony made a pair of luxury headphones based essentially on the WH-1000 XM6s called Sony 1000X, the collection with an X. And these are made of vegan leather and stainless steel, and they look really nice, and apparently they're awesome, except they have slightly lesser battery life than the mainstream model and cost more money. Any thoughts on that, Daniel?
Yes, I have lots of thoughts. My first thought is, where is my review unit, Sony?
They've been pretty stingy lately, so.
My second thought is, why does this exist? I genuinely don't, like, this is an economy where a 650 or 99, whatever the cost is, pair of headphones is just not a thing people are spending on unless it's the AirPods Max. And even then, like, this is what, more expensive than the AirPods Max? Am I wrong on the price, by the way? I think
no, it's roughly right. Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Secondly, like, I think the XM6s were, so in the long history of the XM series, right, we have the originals, which were very good, but flawed. We had the 2s, which I thought I still own, and they sounded amazing. I thought the 3 was okay. The 4 was great. The 5 had that new design that didn't fold, and everybody hated it. The 6 had the same design, but it folded, and everybody loved it again. And now this, which doesn't fold, but is a luxury product, so nobody really expects it to. I don't understand it, really, because it's not like it has different drivers or anything like that. It's basically the same headphones.
Yeah, I hear conflicting things about that. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. This is just a luxury play. Like, I think this is, again, back to what we're talking about, how the AI stuff is reflecting on what's happening, the malaise that's happening out there in general. There's a stratification of pricing right now. Everybody, like, a lot of companies are making luxury products for the rich, and then we are just left with, the leftovers, as it were. And I don't like that. And in that sense, this is stupid. But at the same time, if Sony wants to, sell 10 pair of headphones more than usual, great. Like, I don't think they're going to make a ton of money on these profit-wise. Maybe they are, but they're not going to sell a lot in that sense of making money. So why would you buy this other than a status symbol? If you're a person who buys Hermes bags, then maybe you'll buy these. But then less battery life. The carrying case is cool, though, I have to say.
Yeah, I did like the carrying case. I like Sony's carry cases.
So look, buy the XM6s. They're on sale all the time. I mean, the XM5s, if you want to use them around the house, because I think not folding is definitely a travel issue for me. So I use my XM6s when I travel on my XM5s around the house. And then I have XM4s and XM3s. I never got the 2s or the 1s. Well, they're not called 1s, but you know what I'm saying. And they all have slight different sound signatures. And from what I understand, like talking to folks that are into hi-fi, that these X's, these new connection luxury ones, are slightly different sounding than the XM6s, which leads me to believe that maybe there's some driver difference. Look, I don't get it either. I'm not against it, but it kind of reinforces this theory that I have, that a lot of companies are going into making more luxurious things for the rich and famous. And I don't like that, because, like, maybe focus on a more affordable thing. It's like that Mercedes-AMG GT electric 4-door coupe is great, but like, it's, a niche high-end luxury product for performance enthusiasts. Thankfully, a lot of the technology that is in that car is going to trickle down. They already told me that. I asked them, I'm like, did you develop this, cost effectively so they could get down to, and the CLA is a very affordable, really great EV from Mercedes. What I want to see now is Sony make a pair of $200 headphones that rival the XM6s, maybe don't quite match them. Maybe do that with slightly less battery life than the XM6, and maybe slightly detuned sound signature. And maybe they have this product, and because of the alphabet jumble that is Sony's, product line, we don't know it exists or something. And maybe they haven't really been critically received, and maybe there's too many compromises. Look, Sony doesn't seem to want to make affordable things anymore. So, I mean, honestly, look at their phone that launched last week we talked about, right? It's like, Is it a good phone? Objectively, probably not as good as a Galaxy S26 Ultra, okay? Is it cool? Yes. Should you buy it? Probably not. At least the XM6s, if you buy them on slight discount, I think are definitely worth their cost. So, if anything, I'd love Sony to do something more affordable. Like, I think when they did the Link Buds S, which were their earbuds that were not open, that was a good example of them going down in price, taking 90% of the WF experience of their earbuds, high-end earbuds, and bringing it down to a more affordable price point. I want to see that happening on headphones. Whether they will or not, I don't know. So
I don't know. I like the design of these headphones. I think they look very
cool.
nice. And I like that Sony is still pushing the envelope when it comes to over-ear headphones, because it's a commoditized market, right? When you have really good over-ear headphones from Soundcore for like $100, or some other companies that are producing decent stuff. Even the mid-range and low-end Sony headphones are okay. I'm not sure that there's a huge market for these, except for, as you said, like travelers who need really good ANC. But all the power to them. Like this feels like a PR play more than anything else.
It's also maybe a test the market thing, right? Because look, Bowers and Wilkins, I can't remember. They make a pair of noise canceling headphones that sound really great and are generally very good, but they cost a lot. They cost a lot more. They're like AirPods Max territory in price, and maybe they're trying to compete with that. And they're really build quality is way better. You have to admit that one of the things about the XM6s and all the XMs so far is the build quality hasn't quite been as good as it could have been. Like the XM5s in particular had a lot of problems with them breaking at the hinge, not at the missing hinge. And so I'm just like, perhaps this is a way to test that. Any improvement in build quality is welcome to me for Sony headphones at this point. But anyway, moving along. Xiaomi 17 Max is out in China. I don't want to spend too much time on these last news items because they're more like rapid fire kind of PSA style. Basically, look at it this way. Xiaomi is proliferating its 17 lineup. If you wanted a Pro Max, which is the highest end non-ultra, like non-camera centric device, the one that has this display in the back in the camera island, but you don't want the display, this is your phone. This is basically the Pro Max without the display in the back. And then they decided to bump the main camera from 50 megapixel to 200 megapixel. And if you look at the pixel size, that is a big 200 megapixel sensor. So it might be interesting to see the difference in quality. And of course, 8,000 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery. So, again, China only at this point. So now we have a 17 base, which I have. We have a 17 Pro and a 17 Pro Max, which have the display in the back. We have a 17 Max, which is kind of the Pro Max, but, without the display. It's getting complicated. So gird your loins. And then the 17T is coming. So that's the other thing. PSA, the 17T is coming on May 28th. And that one will be a global launch. I don't know if the 17 Max is coming to global markets, but the 17T is the TikTok cycle, right? They do the 17 in the fall, and then they do the 17T or whatever, the T series in the spring. So that's coming. So yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say. This 8 Elite Gen 5, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure it's going to be great. The 17 base that I have is solid fun. Red Magic has again, TikTok cycle. The S series is always like using the 4 Galaxy equivalent chip, now free of its obligations towards Samsung. Qualcomm makes the chip available to other manufacturers, and it is available on the Red Magic 11S Pro series. Slight bump in battery size as well on the Pro Plus, I believe. And yeah, I mean, go to hothardware.com and read my review of the 11 Pro, and you can extrapolate from there what a slightly faster chip would bring. And any thoughts on these gaming phones and the Red Magics in general?
I have the Red Magic 10.
You're shaking your head.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't understand these phones. I think if you're, especially today, like if you want to play mobile games, there are infinite form factors available to you that don't require you to play Android games. And I don't mean like yes, you can emulate, Windows games on WinLater. You can play whatever you want on emulators. Like you can do it all. But I don't think that's what these phones are for. These are phones that are made for like high-end Genshin Impact and Call of Duty Mobile, and that to me, I don't quite understand who is playing.
There's
these.
a huge market in Asia for people playing.
I get it.
Competitive
I do. Like,
esports on Android. I guess that's what it's for.
Exactly, and like that is a world that I would love to learn more about, but I just do not understand who is buying these phones.
Very few people are. I think that the other thing to keep in mind is that if you do want the fastest, highest, best specs on the chip level, on the performance level, on a thermal level, on a benchmark level that might perhaps translate to your Genshin Impact session, and you can buy these phones in North America and in the US for less, way less than the equivalent S26 Ultra. So that's another selling point. Yes, you get lesser cameras, all that, but you're getting a Snapdragon 8 Elite, in this case for Galaxy equivalent, for, less than $1299, which is the price of an S26, quite a bit less. I think it starts at $999 or something, or even less than that. So now this is China only for now, but with Red Magic, it always comes to North America at some point. So I expect this to happen unless there's some issue with RAM shortage or something. Honor has made a phone called the Power, and the Power has always been about maximizing battery life. And the Power 2 was the first phone to break, alongside one of the Realme phones, to break the 10,000 milliamp hour barrier with a silicon carbon battery in a phone that was about 8 millimeters thick. So like no increase in girth, just more battery packed in there. And so the Power 3 is now rumored to be coming with somewhere between 11 and 12,000 milliamp hour in that 8 point something millimeter form factor. It's not stopping. And it's good because I used that 10,000 milliamp hour Realme phone. I can't remember which one it was last year. It had the word power in it as well. And man, 4 days, 3 days, easy. Like just, you never worry about, and when you plug in, it's like 80 watt Super VOOC or whatever, and you're back on track. You plug it in for 10 minutes, and you're back for another day or something. Crazy stuff. I like it though. I like that silicon carbon is just, I wrote a whole article for Tom's Guide about silicon carbon batteries. You guys should read it. I actually interviewed people at Honor and at Oppo, or OnePlus rather, about that, about like the pros and cons of technology, the challenges on a technical level, why it's not more widespread in the West and all that. Asked a ton of hard questions, all summarized in that article. Check it out. I'm gung-ho on silicon carbon. You can't change my mind. It's the future. Everything is going to have it. Speaking of which, by the way, that Mercedes had silicon anodes in its batteries. So essentially silicon carbon. So EVs have it too now. And they actually have for a while, but it's just not really talked about on the EV world as much because everybody's focused on solid state, which is still a pipe dream.
One day.
So, one day. Speaking of Honor, Robot Phone is officially, this is Honor's announcement, coming Q3 of 2026. That thing, look, I don't care how gimmicky it is, how useless it ends up being, how not well implemented it is. I am 100% on board with wacky form factors and trying new things. And even if Gen 1 is kind of meh, I want this to happen and I want this to iterate and I think this is super cool. Your thoughts?
Do you?
Yeah. Why not?
I guess I don't understand.
You have an Osmo Pocket built in your phone at all times.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's the brief.
Mm-hmm. Sure, like go.
Some creators will love it, especially in China. I can see like some influencers being nuts on this thing.
Yeah, I guess I just don't think that combining those two things will replace either of them. Like. But you get a mediocre phone. We didn't think
our smartphones would replace our cameras, and we didn't think our smartphone would replace our MP3 players back in the day, and then they did.
No, I know, but like we're talking about a standalone camera that you use for specific purposes, right? Yes, like,
yeah.
It sounds interesting. I might have to use it, but I don't quite understand its purpose other than
But
to
niche phones are, I think, hard to understand in general. Like, I think, like you're not even on board on the foldy phone. I finally come around. Like, I like flip phones. I get the concept of flip phones, but they're not really useful to me. But folding book style phones, like the OnePlus Open completely changed my mind about them. I am absolutely gung-ho and I always have one at least within reach in my pocket. Not my main though. Still haven't made that transition, but yeah.
Look, I use the OnePlus Open longer than any other foldy phone. Like I use that thing for like 8 months as my daily. I loved that thing. But it requires sacrifices. Not anymore with weight and thickness, but I just never found the inside display to be something that I open so much that I need it that often.
For me, the turning point was airplanes.
Right.
Short
yeah.
flights.
You travel a ton. That's fair. I
Short
don't travel
flights
as much as
where
you.
I'm in economy and I don't want to pull out a laptop and I might not have room on the tray for the laptop. Just pull that thing out, bang away a freaking story on a slightly bigger screen. That's it. That's the killer app.
That's fair. And this one too, like the robot phone, I think the technology is interesting. It's unique, and that I'll give Honor for because Honor doesn't make a lot of unique things.
Exactly.
A lot of it is just an iPhone clone of some sort. So good for them.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. I mean, for me, it's about the tech is cool, and I want to see them being able to pull that off in that packaging. Should be really interesting to see. Okay, last thing, very briefly, the Trump phone, the T1 phone is real. It exists. People have it in their hands. OMG. I don't really want to spend too much time on this, but it's basically a rebadged, reskinned HTC U24 Pro or Ultra from 2-3 years ago, which was itself not an HTC phone. It was made by some third-party Shenzhen, Hong Kong-based company like WingTech or whatever for HTC, because HTC now is focused on Vive, but it was for the Taiwanese market. And this is exactly the same phone. It looks like just cosmetically gold with a different camera pod.
Just gold.
Just gold. And with the wrong number of stripes on the back. So are we saying any more than that?
This is the dumbest shit that I've ever seen in my life. And
isn't it?
They know that.
Oh,
everybody
absolutely.
involved in this product understands how dumb this is, and they are making it anyway because there are dumb people who want this thing.
I'm actually surprised they delivered it. Like, I thought it was going to be a whole scam. They were going to take the $100 and run with everybody.
They've delivered 2 units so far. I don't think that they're making these in the thousands yet. I just think that this is one more scam from this vagrant who happens to run the government. But what do I know?
No, you're right. I mean, it's a scam. But it exists. So as a mobile tech reporter, it is my job to tell you that there is a phone out there called the Trump Phone T1.
That's very responsible of you.
I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to give him any airtime as much as possible. Daniel, tell folks where they can find you on the internet and where you're at and what you do.
So I work at 9 to 5 Google, which is my new gig as of last year.
Congrats.
So go see all my friends writing. I work mainly behind the scenes, but I'm happy to promote their great work. And I just launched a new tech podcast with my friend Steven Radosha. It's called Old's Cool, not old school, but Old's Cool. OLD''S.
Old is cool.
Old is cool. It's terrible SEO, but I didn't think about that before I launched. But it is a retro tech show where we talk about the week's news and then we pair it with something that happened a while ago and find thematic similarities. So this week was all about Google I/O and Google I/O in 2016. So that's my plug. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Folks, you got to follow Daniel on social. What are your handles?
Journey Dan on all the things.
And on all the things. All right. So folks, go follow that. Subscribe to the Old's Cool podcast because I have. And you know where to find me. I'm at Tankrel, TNKGRL on the socials. That's like the comic book character Tankrel. Just drop all the vowels. You get my handle pretty much everywhere, except on TikTok where you have to add 69, which is my year of birth. But I'm mostly active on Blue Sky, Insta, Threads. So that's where you'll find me. Chat with me and Daniel about the show, questions, comments, all that. And then the podcast is at mobiletechpodcast.com. It's on all the platforms. There's links there. You can find it. There's an RSS feed there too. Please subscribe and tell your friends. And then there's a YouTube channel with some occasional videos, monthly or so, hands-ons, unboxing, that kind of stuff. youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, and all that good stuff. I mentioned the Patreon. If you want to see a video version of this podcast, see our faces, see the devices, and support me, this is a great opportunity. $5 a month. Every week you get a show. You get it a day in advance. I publish the audio free version on Sunday, so you get it on Saturday night usually because I'm late just before I go to bed kind of thing. So support me on Patreon if you can. Patreon.com/TNKGRL. And I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Daniel, thanks so much for spending the, what is it called again? After morning with me?
After morning.
On an episode of the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Folks, stay tuned. I'll have Daniel on again in the future. We'll have another show next week. So until then, cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.